In a kingdom once famed for its splendor, there existed a queen so consumed by her obsession with beauty that she consulted no advisors, trusted no court, and saw no truth beyond her own reflection in a magical mirror. This queen, with hair as black as a starless night and a crown of glittering emeralds, had named herself fairest of them all, until the day that very mirror dared to disagree.
Queen, thou art fair, but there is one now fairer.
The room seemed to freeze, as if even the light from the windows dared not move. The queen's fingers tightened on the gilded edge of the mirror frame.
Who? Name her?
Snow White.
And so, the queen's envy turned its gaze to the young princess, whose beauty shone not just through her delicate features, skin white as snow, lips red as blood, hair black as ebony, but in the kindness she offered to all who crossed her path. Snow White's heart was as pure and radiant as morning dew, and that, above all, was what made her truly beloved. The queen, however, saw no purity in which to rejoice, only competition to be erased. She summoned her huntsman that very evening, a man loyal but reluctant to carry out the command she issued, to take Snow White into the forest and ensure that she never returned. The next day, as the princess wandered beneath the towering pines, gathering wildflowers, the huntsman drew his blade. But when he saw the innocence in her wide, curious eyes, he faltered.
Run and do not look back.
And run she did, deeper into the woods, her breath ragged with sorrow and fear, until she could no longer hear the sound of another human soul. The forest loomed around her, both a refuge and a labyrinth. She stumbled until twilight, when she happened upon a clearing. Beyond it stood a quaint cottage, its windows glowing warmly, as though it were waiting just for her. Within, Snow White found the home oddly small but impeccably neat. 7 tiny chairs around a table, 7 beds just large enough for children. Exhausted, she sank into a bed and fell into a dreamless sleep, unaware that its owners, a band of 7 dwarves who worked the nearby mines, would soon find her there. Their initial alarm at discovering a stranger softened when they saw her peaceful face and learned of her plight. Kind-hearted as they were, they offered her sanctuary. In return, Snow White made the cottage her home, caring for its inhabitants and filling their lives with warmth and laughter. But the queen, back at the castle, refused to let go of her grudge. Nights passed, and she turned once more to her mirror, confident that Snow White was no more.
Mirror, who is the fairest of them all?
Snow White. She dwells with the 7 dwarves, hidden deep within the forest. Fairer still.
The rage that coursed through the queen transformed her beauty into something sharp and cruel. She turned to dark magic, scheming to rid the world of Snow White herself. First, she disguised herself as peddlers, offering the girl poisoned laces for her dress. But the dwarves found Snow White on the floor, gasping for breath, and cut the laces away just in time. Then the queen tried again, crafting a poisoned comb. Disguised once more, she offered it to the unsuspecting girl. But when Snow White swooned, the dwarves returned and removed the cursed comb from her hair, bringing her back to consciousness. Finally, the queen concocted her most treacherous weapon, an apple, glossy red and inviting. Disguised as a humble old woman, she found Snow White picking flowers outside the cottage. "Dear child," the crone crooned, "would you care for a taste? The sweetest apple in the realm!" Snow White hesitated, ever cautious after her previous encounters, but the woman's frailty and kindness seemed genuine. She offered to share a bite, and the crone insisted she take the first. The moment the fruit touched her lips, Snow White crumpled to the ground, her complexion ashen, her breath stilled. The queen, at last satisfied, vanished into the forest mist. The dwarves returned that evening to a haunting stillness. Try as they might, they couldn't wake Snow White from her cursed sleep. Heartbroken, they placed her in a glass coffin atop a hill, where sunlight and moonlight alike could illuminate her unmatched beauty. Every day they wept, their grief mingling with the silence of the forest. One day, a prince riding through the woods stumbled upon the coffin. Struck by her ethereal beauty, he leaned down to kiss her forehead. Not out of romance, but reverence for the life that had been unfairly snatched away. Magic stirred, unbinding the spell. Snow White's eyes fluttered open, and the forest seemed to breathe again. News of her survival reached the queen, who flew into such a rage that she shattered her enchanted mirror, its shards scattering across the castle floor. In her madness, she fled, never to be seen again. As for Snow White, she returned to the castle with the prince, but never forgot her time in the forest, the friendship of the dwarves, or the lessons learned in both kindness and resilience. And so, the fairest one of all ruled not just with beauty, but with wisdom and grace, her legend rooted not only in outward charm, but in the enduring power of a good heart.